Miraculous truths manifested, 3 divine revelations that transformed reality into the supernatural, in the heart of a quaint English village, where every cobblestone is whispered over with tales of faith, a divine shift was about to unfurl. Grace, a devoted single mother, had spent numerous nights within the embrace of her prayers, wondering if St. Jude, the saint of desperate cases, would hear her. She was living a life wrapped in struggle, yet held together by layers of faith. Then came the day that changed everything. Tommy, her playful 7-year-old, became gravely ill, a rare affliction shadowing his bright spirit and leaving him bedridden. It was as if a dark veil had descended, obscuring both his laughter and Grace's hope. Doctors were baffled, their faces painted in lines of concern. But within the haunting silence of her son's room, something stirred, a whisper of a promise: call on St. Jude. His light shines in darkness. As the villagers gathered for a candlelit prayer vigil, the air thickened with expectancy. Hair-raising warmth seeped through the walls of the stone church, the soft glow of candles flickering like tiny flames of divine presence. Grace felt an inexplicable peace, a hand upon her shoulder, as if the heavens were wrapping her in comfort. In that sacred moment, she heard it, a still, small voice within declaring, "Healing comes for Tommy." A cascade of hope bloomed in her heart, but it was quickly met with skepticism. Whispers soon spread through the village. Doubts sowed discord among the community, and well-meaning friends began encouraging worldly solutions, urging her to put her faith in science, not prayer. The sweet reassurance she craved felt fragile now, and shadows of uncertainty clung to her spirit like a thorny vine. Before long, delusions danced on the edges of her faith, whispering in her ear that maybe surrendering was the only way. In her moment of vulnerability, just as she contemplated stepping back, the unthinkable happened. One sunlit morning, Grace found Tommy, his eyes sparkling, his cheeks rosy, laughter spilling from his lips as if brushed by celestial hands. He was vibrant, alive, and fully healed, as though a miracle had breathed life back into him. As news rippled across the village, an awakening took root. The once doubtful community surged to gather in celebration, radiant with joy. They witnessed the fruit of Grace's unwavering devotion, Tommy's miracle, a testament to the divine. Yet even among the cheers, unanswered questions lingered. What did this wondrous healing mean for Grace? Would the newfound faith transcend into more turbulent times? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As candlelight flickered and prayers danced heavenward, Grace and her community stood on the edge of something vast, something yet to be unraveled. The air hung thick with possibility. What other supernatural truths awaited their embrace? Would they lean fully into faith, hand in hand with hope, prepared to weather the storms to come? The questions hummed in the sacred space, inviting the villagers to venture deeper into the mystery of divine wonder, inviting them to trust in the extraordinary, asking what other revelations might lie ahead. The village gathered under a bright morning sky, their spirits lifted by the miracle they had witnessed just days prior. Laughter danced in the air, children raced about as if the spirit of joy had possessed them. Grace stood at the church doorway, watching Tommy play with his friends. Her heart swelled with gratitude, yet the remnants of doubt still whispered to her, on softer days would the miracle last? As she looked around, the villagers shared stories of hope linked to her own. One woman, Mary, who had suffered from loneliness for years, approached Grace with tears of joy in her eyes. "Your faith brought my heart back to life, too," she said, clutching Grace's hands tightly. "If God can heal Tommy, surely He can mend the brokenness we all carry." Grace felt a warmth flood her chest, igniting a spark of something deeper within her, an urge to lead, to nurture this collective faith. Encouraged, she proposed a moment of prayer, gathering everyone back into the church. Their voices rose as one, rich and buoyant, echoing through the stone walls like a symphony of hope. After the prayer, Grace was approached by Mr. Hargrove, the village baker, his brows furrowed. "Grace, this miracle, it's beautiful, but it must mean so much more." His voice trembled. "What does it say about the faith we have not yet explored? Perhaps it's time we confront our own shadows." His words struck a chord within Grace. As they spoke, she began to reflect on her journey, the riptides of doubt, the peaks of belief, and the unwavering light of grace they experienced collectively. Perhaps the true miracle wasn't just Tommy's healing, but the awakening of faith in every heart present. With each challenge, there can be a greater purpose. Days turned to weeks, and the village came alive with fervor. Conversations swirled around the church like the fragrant incense of morning flowers. Grace led small gatherings, where stories and prayers bloomed into heartfelt confessions and renewed hopes. The villagers were sharing their own struggles openly, emboldened by the truth that they were not alone in their pain. One evening, as a gentle rain pattered against the windows, Grace received a letter. The neat handwriting belonged to Marcus, a longtime friend who had moved away for work. "I've heard about the miracle, Grace," he wrote. "Your faith has reached me across the miles and inspired me to confront my own doubts. Perhaps it's time for a visit." Her heart danced at the notion of rekindling a lost friendship. It wasn't just a letter, it was a reminder of the connection that faith can forge even from afar. The warmth of this message ignited something in her, a deeper calling to share their experience beyond the village. Perhaps their miracle could extend farther than they had ever imagined. As the community blossomed into a stronger unit, Grace felt the presence of God like never before. It was as if an invisible string connected them all, woven tight by miracles and shared faith. The once silent doubts of those around her were transforming, dissolving in the warm light of belief. Yet, even amid this blossoming, an unsettling thought gnawed at the edges of Grace's mind. If their faith had the power to heal, would they be ready for the trials that might test them next? Would the villagers hold tight to the promises when darkness crept back in, uninvited? As she closed her eyes in prayer that night, she sought guidance. "Dear Lord, lead us where we need to go. Strengthen our spirits for what lies ahead." In that moment, she felt a rush of wind through the open window, stirring the curtain. It was as if the heavens whispered back something else awaited on the horizon, a new adventure, a greater light emerging within the shadows. But what could that new journey reveal? What trials might beckon them to unwavering faith? Grace held her breath, sensing the mystery ahead. She knew in her heart that another divine revelation was on the cusp of unfolding. The dawn broke slowly over the village, gilding the rooftops with a golden hue, a soft promise of a new day. Grace stepped outside, breathing in the crisp air as she closed her eyes and felt the sun's warmth against her skin. Each ray seemed to whisper reassurance, reminding her of the miracle that blossomed in their midst. As she made her way down the cobblestone path, she noticed Mary and a few others gathering around the well. Their animated laughter carried on the breeze, a sweet melody ringing out in the early light. This was what hope sounded like, easy, vibrant, and alive. "Grace! Come join us," Mary called, her eyes gleaming. "We were just sharing stories of how faith has changed our lives." With a smile blossoming on her lips, Grace hurried over. As she sat among them, she felt uplifted by these moments of shared joy. Each testimony encouraged others to speak, crafting a tapestry of faith woven from individual struggles and triumphs. "I thought I was finished," one man declared, his voice quaking with emotion. "But now, I see how God has been guiding me all along. Losing my job felt like a curse, yet here I am, finding purpose in ways I never imagined." "Amen," echoed softly from the others, a chorus of agreement that filled the air. Grace's heart swelled, each story revealing threads of a greater design drifting like leaves in an unseen current, leading them towards a common destination. Yet amidst this jubilance, a small knot of anxiety tightened in Grace's chest. Each story was a revelation, yet she feared that not all tales would end joyfully. What about those still burdened by doubt and despair? Would they too step into the light or remain in shadow? Debate stirred in her mind, leaving her restless. Later that day, Grace noticed Tommy playing alone under the big oak tree. Sheltered beneath its branches, he seemed deep in thought, a stark contrast to the laughter that had enveloped the village. Curiosity pulled at her heart. She approached him gently, crouching so their eyes met. "What's on your mind, Tommy?" she asked, sensing the weight in his small shoulders. I don't understand," he murmured, picking at the grass beneath him. "Why did God let me get sick in the first place? It was scary. What if something bad happens to our village next?" The innocent fear in his eyes pierced through to the heart of Grace's burgeoning insecurities. She took a breath, preparing her words with care. "Sometimes, little one, we face challenges not to break us, but to show us how strong we are. It's in the struggles that our faith truly grows." He nodded slowly, absorbing her words. Before leaving, Tommy's hand reached to clasp hers. "Will you help us, Grace? When things get hard?" Her chest tightened with resolve. "Always, Tommy. We will face whatever comes together, in faith and love." As evening approached, Grace returned home filled with purpose. In that conversation, she realized her role. It was not merely to lead but to stand alongside them, especially in the face of adversity. Strength would arise from their union. That night, as stars blinked awake in the velvet sky, Grace knelt by her window, hands clasped tight. "Guide us, Lord. Bring us closer in this journey. Let us see challenges not as fears but as opportunities for faith to shine brighter." In the stillness, she felt a warmth surround her. It was like being wrapped in a comforting embrace, confirmation that something magnificent was always just beyond their reach. But suddenly, a strange flicker of light caught her attention outside. It radiated from the old church, dancing with unusual fervor. Was it merely the flickering glow of candles? Or perhaps, a sign of God's presence? Curiosity stirred her heart, igniting an eager anticipation for what awaited. What message lay within that flickering light? Grace sensed that the time had come for the village to engage in their most profound spiritual awakening yet. Would they stand together in faith when the call came? The light from the church pulsed rhythmically, drawing Grace's gaze like a moth to a flame. Her heart quickened, and she felt an undeniable pull, a beckoning to discover its source. With cautious steps, she made her way towards the ancient structure, the old stones cool beneath her fingertips. As she approached, the flickering glow intensified, creating shadows that danced playfully against the wall. It was as if the very essence of hope had taken form. Grace's breath caught in her throat. Pushing the heavy door open, a rush of warmth enveloped her. The familiar scent of aged wood and wax combined to create a sacred atmosphere. Inside, the church was a constellation of flickering candles, each flame illuminating faces filled with wonder. Villagers were gathered, kneeling, praying. "Grace! You came!" Mary's voice broke through her awe. The joy in her eyes was infectious. "We've all felt it. God is moving tonight." "What is happening?" Grace asked, her spirit heightened by the collective energy in the room. "Just moments ago, a wave of prayer swept over us," someone explained, tears glistening in their eyes. "We began sharing our worries, and suddenly, His presence filled the space. It's like He is reminding us that He hears us." As if in response, the church bells rang out, resonating through the stillness of the evening, a heavenly anthem celebrating the connection they shared. The sound vibrated deep within Grace, filling her with both solace and anticipation for what was to come. Then, from the front of the church, the flickering light expanded, coalescing into a bright luminescence that illuminated every corner. It felt alive, shimmering with divine energy. The villagers stood, transfixed, whispering prayers of praise and gratitude. "Look!" a young woman cried, pointing. "The altar." A vision. Grace turned her gaze to the altar, her heart racing as she beheld an image, vivid and clear. It was a radiant figure, bathed in light, arms open wide in invitation. It exuded a warmth that felt tangible, wrapping around each person like a beloved embrace. In that holy moment, Grace understood. This was more than a flicker, this was a divine encounter, a revelation of unshakable love. She clasped her hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you, Lord." Others echoed her sentiments, spontaneous worship erupting like wildfire. Hands rose high, hearts united, praises ascending like sweet incense toward heaven. Grace felt the worries that had clouded her mind dissolve, replaced by a profound assurance. Yet in that joy, a voice echoed in her spirit, gentle yet firm. "What will you do with this experience? How will it shape your journey and the journey of your village?" The question unsettled her, urging contemplation. Enlightenment had come, yet it carried responsibility. What would this renewal mean for those outside these walls? With a heart full of divine energy, Grace stepped forward, feeling an urgency to share this moment, to harness the strength that blossomed in unity. "Friends!" she called, raising her voice above the worship. "Let this light guide us. Let us be vessels of hope." As her words radiated throughout the church, the flickering light pulsed in response, bathing everyone in a sense of newfound purpose. A collective roar of "Amen" surged forth, as they began to realize the journey ahead was not just personal. Their faith could be a beacon for others who lingered in darkness, but as the night wore on, a flicker of doubt crept into Grace's heart. Would every village soul be ready for this shift? How could they reach those still wandering in shadows? In that revelatory atmosphere, she sensed the adventure was just beginning, ripe with divine promise. The flickering light beckoned once more, its message clear: deeper truths were still waiting to be revealed. What other miraculous truths lay hidden, waiting to transform not just their hearts, but the reality of their lives? The answers were on the horizon, shimmering like those sacred flames, urging her forward into the unknown. The atmosphere in the church was electric, every heart beating in sync with the pulse of hope surrounding them. Grace felt it within her, a stirring, a longing to dive deeper into this divine encounter. "What else, O Lord? What more do you have for us?" she whispered, her breath hitching with expectancy. As the hours passed, the fervent worship swirled around her like an unbreakable bond. She could see it in the faces of her friends, Mary's radiant smile, the way Thomas clutched his heart, eyes glistening with tears. Each person was drenched in the warmth of something grander than themselves, each life touched by this moment. It was unifying, this shared vision, a collective awakening that transcended individual struggles and lifted them toward a greater purpose. Then, as if the air itself thickened with divine presence, Grace felt a shift. The flickering light at the altar grew brighter, and the ethereal figure became more substantial, its gaze trained knowingly on her. The warmth enveloped her, a gentle nudge urging her forward. "Trust," the whisper came like a breeze, inviting yet commanding. Grace's heart hammered in response. She took a step closer, instinctively knowing that what lay ahead was vital not just for her but for every soul longing to glimpse that light. "I wish to see," she began, her voice barely a murmur but laced with determination. Suddenly, the light swelled. It was as though the heavens opened, cascading a beam of revelation that illuminated not just the church but the very essence of each person gathered there. Grace felt layers of doubt peel away, revealing an abundance of clarity and strength. "What do you wish us to know, Lord?" she called out, her heart bursting with expectation. With a soft rustle, the radiance shimmered, and in an instant, images filled her mind, the faces of her neighbors, those weighed down by burdens she had only begun to understand. Their fears, their longings, all laid bare before the light. Grace saw families forced apart by strife, souls wandering in despair, and children craving guidance. "Go," the voice rose, filled with urgency yet laced with love. "Be the light that represents me. Share my love without hesitation." Grace's breath caught. This was the truth, the calling. The light they had felt earlier was not just for them, but for the world outside those walls. The covenant they shared demanded action, demanded sharing the unending light that coursed through them. Throughout the congregation, heads lifted, hearts beat faster in recognition. Everyone could sense it. It was changing them. As each person made eye contact, a deep understanding formed. They were no longer isolated individuals, but a family, called to ignite the spark of faith beyond their village. beyond their comfort zones. "Together we will go," cried Mary, grasping Grace's hand tightly. The church echoed back their commitment. It resounded with an enthusiastic "Yes, Lord," that drifted up like incense, excitement mingled with an undercurrent of fear. What lay beyond this moment? Were they ready to go out and ignite the world? Grace's heart fluttered. Peering into the other faces, she saw fierce determination. They may not know the path, but they were willing to take the first step. As they began to pray, their voices rose indeed, powerful and unbroken. They were offering themselves to be instruments of peace and hope, a tapestry woven together in faith. But as Grace closed her eyes, surrendering to the moment, a sudden sensation washed over her. A vision flickered in the recesses of her mind, an image of a crossroad ahead, two distinct paths, one illuminated, vibrant with life, and the other dim, shrouded in mist. What must we choose? Grace mused silently. Will we dare to tread the illuminated path? And at that thought, the flickering light pulsed once more, igniting a new wave of prayer and anticipation. What awaited them at the crossroad? Would they embrace the challenge and venture into the unknown? The answers lingered just beyond the shimmering horizon, waiting to be discovered. Grace's heart raced as the light pulsed again, sending waves of warmth coursing through her. It was more than a feeling, it was a call to action. Encircling her were her friends, eyes wide and hopeful, the same enthusiasm coursing through them. They had felt it too, the magnetic pull towards the path defined by faith, even if it felt uncertain. "Let us ask him for wisdom," Thomas said, his voice steady. It broke through the moment's intensity, reminding them of the power of collective prayer. They all knelt, a circle of vulnerability and strength, hands clasped, commitment unyielding. "Lord, guide us," Mary urged, her voice a soft yet commanding thread in the woven tapestry of prayer. "Illuminate our steps as we take this leap of faith. Show us how to share your love with the world outside our walls." As they prayed, Grace felt her surroundings shift. Bore through the heartfelt intercessions, she sensed a deeper reality unfolding, a connection to the divine that made everything more vivid. Each prayer echoed within her, resonating like a heartbeat. Then, as if the heavens responded, the radiance grew even brighter, radiating hope and expectation. In that moment, the images from earlier surged back into her mind. Desperate faces, broken homes, and wandering souls were now illuminated with potential. Grace realized they weren't simply going on a mission, they would become conduits of hope. She felt the weight of responsibility settling within her, and with it, overwhelming peace. Unity in purpose. She called out suddenly. "We must go as one. Let our hearts beat together like the wings of angels, each one carrying love, compassion, and hope." "Yes." A chorus of amens swept through the group, filling the church with a palpable energy that lingered in the air like incense. But even amid that rising excitement, fear tasted bitter on the tip of Grace's tongue. Would they truly have the strength to walk the path laid before them? What awaited them out there? "I can't help but feel that choosing the illuminated path means confronting the darkness," Thomas voiced quietly, but his words cut sharply through the atmosphere. It was the thought lurking at the back of everyone's hearts, the unspoken fear about the challenges that lay ahead. Determined, Grace responded, "But isn't his light stronger than any shadow we might face? The darkness cannot comprehend it." Each word poured from her with the weight of revelation. "We don't go alone, we go together, holding on to each other and his promise." With renewed fervor, the group began to picture the impact of their mission. They spoke of families they knew who struggled, friends wrapped in despair, and the children who roamed the streets, seeking comfort. With each name mentioned, the light before them flickered, solidifying their purpose. They were being drawn not only to spread light but to weave a community of believers ready to bring forth hope in tangible ways. As they finished praying, Grace felt her spirit soar. There was an urgency to act, to step into that luminous path without hesitation. "We will share stories of faith," she declared, her voice ringing clearly, filled with conviction. "We will help, and we will listen." But as they broke from their huddle, a stillness enveloped the group. The church, now alive with light, seemed to mute every sound around them. Then, quietly, a whisper filled the space, the same voice that had called to Grace earlier. Prepare your hearts, the journey will not be without trials. Are you ready to embrace the challenges of spreading this light? The resonating words hung heavily, a divine challenge stirring their souls. Grace looked around at her friends, searching each face for reassurance. Could they truly bear the burdens that lay ahead? They stood together, poised at the threshold of their calling, the crossroad beckoning them closer. What if the darkness fights back? Whispered Mary, uncertainty creeping into her voice. Grace knew the answer lay beyond the shimmer of light, hammering at her heart and echoing in her mind. Then we fight back with love, the lingering warmth clung to them, yet it wasn't just anticipation, it was the promise of something greater than themselves. What awaited them beyond the threshold? Would they choose to journey forth into the unknown despite their fears? The answers were not just to be found, they were to be lived. The moment felt electric, reverberating with a sacred purpose. As they stood at the threshold, the air thickened with a blend of eagerness and apprehension. Grace could see it in her friends' faces, their resolve was a tapestry woven with hope and uncertainty. A flicker of doubt whispered within her, a small, nagging thought that perhaps they weren't ready for the battles that lay ahead. Let us take a moment, Thomas suggested, his tone steady. Before we step out there, let us seek him one more time. He sensed the tremors of doubt swirling around their hearts, and his gentle wisdom drew them inward once more. They took their places in a circle again, hands joined, breath steady and synchronized. Lord, Grace began, her pulse racing, we don't know what awaits us, but we trust in you. Guide us as we seek to embody your love. Help us navigate the darkness with your light. The urgency in her voice dictated the rising tide of faith. In that sacred hush, the warmth began to swell again, pulsing like the gentle heartbeat of their collective prayer. She felt surrounded by a cocoon of divine presence, an embrace that promised strength against any storm. Suddenly, images flooded her mind, faces shining with joy, lives transformed, communities rallied together in resilience and laughter. The vision was so vivid, it brought tears to her eyes, it reminded her why they were about to embark on this journey. We must hold on to the vision. Mary exclaimed, her voice infused with passion. What we imagine now is but a fraction of what he can create through us. Their voices intertwined in fervent agreement. With each prayer, they shared their fears, dreams, and hopes, weaving them into a fabric of commitment. Let us face the darkness, one said, not with weapons of rage, but with the sword of love and compassion. Gradually, the atmosphere began to shimmer as though the very air around them transformed. It was palpable, a divine energy surrounding them, urging them to act. Grace's heart soared, and she drew strength from the warmth of their unity like a shield against the unknown. His light is a promise, she reminded them. It shines brightest in the shadows. They finished their prayer with a resounding amen, and stood up together, hearts intertwined with courage. The church seemed to vibrate with purpose, the ground beneath their feet feeling both familiar and foreign, as if it were the culmination of all their steps leading to this moment. Their eyes met, and the depth of their shared commitment solidified a bond that felt unbreakable. Grace took a deep breath, stretching her arms wide as if to embrace the very essence of faith. It's time, she said, glancing toward the doors that led into the world beyond. As they stepped out of the church, vibrant sunlight bathed them in warmth, illuminating the path ahead. The world felt alive, filled with possibilities. Yet, the sound of distant thunder echoed ominously, reminders that storms would come. Let us remember to keep our eyes open, Thomas cautioned, looking back toward the sanctuary they'd called home. The light is always with us, even when the clouds gather. Together, we can shine. As they walked further, the reality of their call became more evident. They spotted the first few wandering souls, their faces veiled with sorrow and need. Grace felt a knot of determination tighten in her stomach, each face was a reminder of their purpose. She reached out instinctively, and her friends followed suit, but even as they stepped closer to those in need, Grace felt the whisper of uncertainty. What if we don't have enough to give? It was a haunting thought, one she couldn't shake. Would the light within them shine bright enough to pierce through the despair etched on those faces? Would they find the strength to fight back, to offer hope when facing darkness? Deep within her heart, a new resolve began to emerge as a burning question melded with faith. Would their mission truly show the way, or would it lead them into unforeseen trials? The air crackled with potential, waiting for their first act of love to manifest. Intangible hope. What awaited them in the moments to come? Would they be ready to embrace the fullness of their calling? The line between fear and courage blurred as they faced a new, divine adventure, shimmering just beyond the horizon. The streets buzzed with life, sounds of laughter, chatter, and the distant echo of a street musician's joyful melody. Grace felt the warmth of the sun on her face, but also a chill from the fear that lingered in her heart. It was a curious mix, like light weaving through dark clouds. The faces they encountered were varied. Some held weary expressions, while others bore slight smiles, unaware of the weight that hung in the air. As they approached a man sitting on the curb, his eyes downcast, Grace felt an unexplainable pull. His clothes were tattered, and the lines on his face told stories of hardship. She knelt beside him, her friends forming a gentle circle around them. "Hello," she said softly, her voice a soothing balm amidst the chaos. "What is your name?" He looked up, surprised. Eli, I'm Grace," she replied, her heart thrumming. "We're here to share hope today. How can we support you?" Eli's gaze lingered on them, searching. "Hope," he repeated as if the word was foreign to him. "I've forgotten what that feels like." In that moment, Grace knew the heart of their mission was crystallizing in front of her. Hope was not just a word, it was like air to the suffocating. She glanced at Thomas, who nodded, and then at Mary, who was already opening her hands, the gesture inviting warmth instead of charity. "Eli," Mary said softly, "we believe everyone deserves to feel embraced in their worth. You are not alone." Her words rang with truth, seeping into the street's cracks like sunlight peeking through clouds. For a heartbeat, an overwhelming presence swelled around them. The world quieted, the noise dimmed, as if the universe leaned in closer to listen. Grace felt a tingling sensation in her fingertips, the familiar glow of divine energy spilling forth. Eli blinked, seeming to let their words sink deep. I don't know if I can believe that," he managed, voice trembling. "Let us share our belief in you," Thomas replied, his voice steady and strong. "Sometimes believing is as simple as allowing others to carry that hope when you can't." With every word, the doubt in Grace's heart began to fade slowly. The air shifted, brightening as they all reached out, each laying a hand on Eli's shoulder. It was not just an offering of comfort, it became a bond of shared humanity. Their hearts aligned, and the light of love pulsated between them. Grace felt tears prick her eyes as she whispered a silent prayer, thankful for this moment, this divine connection that seemed to ripple outward into the world. She remembered that no act of love was too small to create waves. Eli's lips quivered, and his eyes glistened. "You really think I matter?" "Yes. You matter." The group collectively affirmed, their voices weaving together like a warm embrace. Something incredible happened. Eli began to smile, at first a shy, hesitant twist of his lips, but then it transformed into a radiant beam of hope. The transformation was magnetic, it drew curious looks from passers-by, some stopping to witness this moment of divine grace unfolding. The beauty of the mundane shifted like the tide, revealing a new shore of possibilities. Grace felt a surge of awe, their very presence could illuminate the glimmers of hope hidden in the shadowy corners of life. Yet, even amidst this victory, a new question loomed in Grace's heart. What if this was merely the beginning? What lay beyond this moment of light? As they forged ahead, hearts emboldened by their encounter, the path unfolded with uncharted territories to explore. A growing urgency wrapped around their mission, pieces of a bigger puzzle waiting to surface. Would they be up to the challenge? Would deeper revelations await them, transforming their understanding yet again? Each step forward echoed with promise, the unseen depths of their calling beckoning them onward. With each step they took, the energy in the air seemed to shift. The atmosphere was charged, vibrant, as if the very fabric of reality was tinged with possibility. Grace felt it deeply. The pulse of hope, once a flicker, now ignited a flame within her spirit, forming a guiding light on their path. "Where shall we go next?" Mary asked, her eyes shining bright with anticipation. "What awaits us in these many faces?" "Every place has potential," Thomas replied, his tone thoughtful. "Just like Eli, they each hold stories yearning to be heard." As they moved through the crowded streets, Grace observed the ebb and flow of humanity around her. Each person they passed was a tapestry of heartache and joy, pain and healing. She wanted to reach out and connect with them all, every soul, every story. Soon, they neared a small park, a green oasis in the urban sprawl. A handful of children were playing, their laughter rising like a joyful song, the notes dancing through the crisp air. But just beside them, a woman sat alone on a bench, her gaze lost in the distance, shadowed by a deep burden. "Let us speak to her," Grace suggested, her heart beating a little faster. She felt an urging inside her, an unseen thread tugging at her spirit. As they approached, the woman slowly turned to look at them. Her eyes were pools of sorrow. "What do you want?" she asked quietly, as if afraid of what the answer might bring. "We want to share love," Grace began, her voice carrying sincerity. "Our hearts have been touched by faith, and we want to pass that on to you." "What is your name?" "I'm Lila," the woman murmured, a hesitant whisper. "Lila, we're here because we believe everyone has worth, even when the world tells us otherwise," Mary added, gently sitting beside her. "Sometimes, just knowing there are those who care can spark a new beginning." Lila's guard began to soften, yet her doubt remained. "Care that seems too far away from me." Grace felt the weight of her words. "But it exists. Just like Eli discovered, your worth isn't tied to your circumstances. It's inherent, something that can never be taken from you." A teardrop escaped Lila's eye, reflecting the sunlight like a tiny star. I don't feel worthy of love. Life has broken me." "Life can break us, yes, but it can also mold us into something beautiful," Thomas responded, the warmth of his voice wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. "Your scars can become testimony, your trials can shape triumph. We stand with you today, reminding you of your shining light." In that moment, time seemed to suspend itself. The noise of the world faded away, leaving just the four of them wrapped in a sacred atmosphere. Grace felt the divine presence drawing near, illuminating Lila's heart like dawn breaking through night. As she watched Lila's expression shift from despair to inquisitive warmth, a revelation dawned on Grace: sometimes, the simplest truths held the most profound power. Sharing love, embracing one another, igniting hope, these were not just fleeting acts. They were threads that wove a divine tapestry. Lila wiped her tears, a fragile smile beginning to form. "You really believe I can be more? That there is still hope?" "Absolutely." the group exclaimed, their voices intertwining in faith. "Together, we can rediscover the beauty within." The spark in Lila's eye sparked in Grace's spirit too. What if the cycle of transformation didn't end here? What if one act of love could set off a cascade of miracles? As they all sat together, hands gently clasped, Grace closed her eyes and breathed deep, feeling unity swirl around them. She whispered a prayer, not for themselves, but for Lila, for every person longing for hope, and then, just as they were about to rise, they heard a commotion nearby, a cry of joy, followed by gasps of astonishment. They turned to see a group gathering around a fallen tree, where something unusual had taken root in the most unexpected place. Grace's heart raced. What could it be? What divine revelation awaited just beyond this moment? The air hummed with anticipation, and she knew they were on the brink of witnessing something extraordinary. As they rushed toward the crowd, drawn by the urgency of anticipation, Grace could hardly contain her excitement. The scene unfolded like a painting in motion, a surreal dance of expressions, from curiosity to awe, echoing through the thrumming heart of the village. They weaved through the gathering until they stood at the epicenter of this astonishing event, before them lay a tree, ancient and gnarled, but its bark cradled within a brilliant array of blossoms bursting forth an uncommon sight that shimmered with divine resonance. Each flower seemed to pulse with light, drawing every eye toward this miraculous blossom, a manifestation of hope in the midst of adversity. It was as if nature herself had joined their journey, reflecting the very essence of transformation they had sought to share. A wave of reverence rippled through the onlookers. "What does it mean?" someone whispered, both awestruck and bewildered. Grace felt the stir in her spirit, for she had seen such revelations before, yet never with such vitality. This was the physical embodiment of their faith, a reminder that beauty sprouts even from the depths of despair. "Maybe it's a sign," Mary suggested, her eyes gleaming. "A miracle that links our stories and those yet to come." The words ignited a spark of understanding in Grace's heart. "Yes," she exclaimed. "This flower is us. We start as fragile, wounded souls, but through faith, we bloom into something radiant." Eager whispers encircled the group, as they processed the profound connection being revealed. "Together, under God's love, we can thrive," Grace declared, her voice rising with excitement. "Let us go and reflect the same light we see here. This is our calling to inspire hope, just like this flower." Suddenly, resolve grew palpable as the villagers turned toward one another, emboldened by the encounter. They began to share stories of trials where faith had shifted darkness into dawn, a mother's fight to raise her children alone, a youth's struggle to break free from despair. Each narrative added richness to the tapestry they were weaving. "I've faced battles," an older man spoke, his voice heavy with weariness. "But seeing this planted in our village, I'm reminded that faith transforms the impossible into beauty." His eyes glistened, echoing a sentiment felt deep within the hearts surrounding him. Crowds began to nod in agreement, affirming the new realization birthed through their shared encounter. It wasn't only about personal claims of victory. Each life resonating before them echoed the truth that their strength lay not in isolation, but in the community they formed together. As laughter mingled with tears of gratitude, Lila stepped forward, in front of Grace. "Thank you for opening my eyes and heart," she said softly, her whisper carrying power. "I want to help share love now too. To teach others that their worth isn't diminished, just like this tree." The astonished silence turned into a chorus of yes. As the villagers embraced the idea of spreading the luminous light they had found. In that moment, the collective spirit transformed, a shift tipped into commitment. Grace looked around her, a surge of love swelling within her heart like an old hymn returning. Could it be that a simple tree blossoming in a forgotten corner could catalyze an entire community to shine brighter? Desiring to cement this moment, Grace clasped her hands. "Let us pray together, dear friends," she called, drawing them into a circle once more. The convergence fused their strengths, minds aligned toward a singular mission. May we always remember this lesson, that through faith pains become purpose, struggle seeds strength. As their voices faded into a gentle silence, the warmth of the gathered souls continued to radiate. Each villager found solace in knowing they were seen, that their shared journey through shadows would yield light, guiding others long after their own stories finished echoing. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting colors that danced on the surrounding tree branches. As the shadows grew longer, Grace sensed a divine presence lingering, confirming that the journey was only beginning. They now stood ready to venture forth, to embrace their unique roles in being vessels of hope, illuminating the lives touched by darkness. Grace smiled as she looked out over her friends. Each one was a light, ready to reach those waiting in the shadows. "We will carry this love beyond ourselves," she vowed, her voice gentle yet unwavering. "Let us make sure those who need to see the blooms of hope can find us. Let us be the change we want to see." As they began to disperse, the murmurs of gratitude filled the air, spiraling back toward the church, where each heart would nurture the revelation they had encountered. The villagers would rise, resilient and bold, into every corner shadowed in doubt, each taking the glow of the extraordinary truth with them. The journey of faith commenced as they took their first steps into the world, cascading through the village like dandelion seeds on the wind, with the promise of hope blossoming everywhere they roamed. And now, Dear friends, if you were touched by this incredible journey of faith, if you believe in the power of hope and transformation, I urge you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories of faith that will inspire you even further. Leave a like now to show the world that these messages resonate strongly. Feed the algorithm with your support, comment below with your reactions, share your testimonies about how this message has impacted your life, and finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who can benefit from this manifestation of divine love. Together, let us spread the light of hope far and wide.